I believe that we are stewards of the taxpayer money, and we are obligated not to fund organizations that refuse to steward that money in an appropriate way. If this was a private business that I owned, I would shut it down. So my question to you is this. I'm working on a 5- and 10-year potential shutdown of the university. And so how much money of that $1.8 billion and $640 million do you believe you would need next year if next year was the first year of a 5- or a 10-year shutdown because the university refuses to put in place appropriate corporate governance? That's my question. Representative Smith, you're recognized for a question of these four.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And actually, I have a general question that is for the chair, but the reason I'm asking the chair is because your answer to this question predicates what my question to UCF will be.
Matt, we've got 10 minutes left, so you're welcome to ask and I know we've got one more member who wants to ask a question. You're welcome to ask them a question, or I'll move on, and maybe if we have some time at the end, you can ask me a question.
And I apologize, but based on the seriousness of the conversation, I stepped out for a few minutes and I need clarification on whether or not to take seriously a conversation about shutting down the University of Central Florida in 5 to 10 years, which is in the district I represent. And I just need clarity on whether that's a serious conversation, because that, of course, will inform the series of questions that I have for the University of Central Florida.
We're not going to take questions for the university. We had a time, as we did for each of these 4 universities, where I'm not sure why you weren't here for the university that was in your district, but I probably would have been. But we're taking questions for these 4. If you have questions, you could have asked me a question when I made the comment. I'm happy to have that discussion with you offline, but I do want to keep our last 10 minutes to these 4, to questions of a generic nature, or general nature, okay, to these 4 universities.
Thank you for that, Mr. Chair. And then my series of questions for UCF.
You can have one and a follow-up, much like I'm keeping it to everybody, unless we have extra time, and then I'll.
Okay, well then let me consolidate this. Since I take a comment like that very seriously. My question for UCF is, what would the impact be on the number of lost jobs as far as the number of employees that are at the University of Central Florida, the number of students who would have to relocate, the number of additional jobs that would be directly impacted by the shutdown of the University of Central Florida, and also what would the economic impact be, and your guess as to how that would skyrocket the unemployment rate for Central Florida if that were to take effect. That's my question.
And you're not recognized to answer that, because I said that questions had to be to the 4 of you. So we're going to move on to Representative Grant. However, I will say this, Representative Smith, I am glad you take seriously the gravity of what has gone on over the last few years at the University of Central Florida. I hope that we can see a similar attitude from them moving forward as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do take that seriously, and I do take very serious the conversation around what that impact could be to the district that I represent, and I think that we owe it to the integrity of the system and this committee to be very serious and very deliberate about the type of rhetoric that we use here. Thank you.
Vice Chair Grant, you're recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Broadly to the couple brief yes/nos, if I can keep them focused.